Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Have you seen Avatar: Last Airbender?
Hello. My name is Doctor. Shit, where's my hat?
I don't know, because I had a character in mind from there that I wanted to talk about, but I don't know if... You know what? I got another one in mind. It'll probably be more easier to talk about, and a lot more content for both, so never mind.
Okay. Alright, you ready, sir?
Alright. Yeah.
Alright. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I'm Super2. Joining me today is...
Deadpoolzilla.
Indeed. We are continuing our character discussions today. Deadpoolzilla, who are we talking about today?
We're talking about Django, the bounty hunter from Star Wars.
No, not that Django.
Oh, it's not that Django? You lied to me.
No, I said Django. God, I didn't even think about that. No, we're talking about Django from the Quentin Tarantino film?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I don't know your life. I legit thought you were serious.
No, I do. When you said Django, I was like, oh, okay, I know which Django you're talking about. I just couldn't pass up the joke.
Man, you straight got me, though.
I know.
I was like, oh, shit. He's not ready at all. Oh, no. We were talking about Django. Yes, Django from Django Unchained, played by Jamie Foxx. Now, it's, of course, worth referencing that this is technically a rebooted character. There was a character from an old Western TV show named Django that, like, is kind of got some similarities, and that he's a bounty hunter, and I think that's about it. Otherwise, a lot of what you know about Django is pretty much original Quentin Tarantino stuff, from my knowledge. So we're not going to be talking about, old 60s television show Django either. We're talking specifically about Jamie Foxx's Django. I guess I'll just start. What was your introduction to the character? The movie, but, what was your experience with the introduction to the character like?
Mine was, I remember the first time I watched it I was at a friend's house, and he was playing...
Nothing. Just straight silence.
Months ago. So this was my first time watching it. I didn't...
You're just straight silent all the way through that.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so I saw the movie 5 months after it had come out at a friend's house. That's pretty much my first introduction to the movie.
Okay. I'd been a couple of years behind. I think I was like 2 years after it'd come out, and it was one of those things I wanted to see for the longest time. I just never quite got around to it. And then I watched it, and I'm like, God, this is a really fucking good ass movie. And I do really like Django Unchained as a film. For me, this is gonna sound weird and kind of crazy. The thing I like the most with Django is the Django Zorro comic book that Matt Wagner wrote.
I thought that was Tarantino who wrote it and Matt Wagner who just, plotted it.
Other way around.
Oh, okay. I thought it was... Never mind.
Yeah. Tarantino helped plot it and such, but Matt Wagner did the writing. I really like Django Unchained as a movie, but that movie has a very particular arc, and Django's just kind of... He's like Tarantino's talked about this, where Django's kind of the black fairy tale that he wanted to tell is kind of how he described it. That's why Broomhilda's locked up in a castle and all this stuff. So Django's like a very typical kind of hero in that regard, where he's got, certainly a noble goal and all that jazz, but it's ultimately... I'm gonna use the word selfish, but that's gonna sound harsher than I mean it to. It's ultimately a selfish goal where it's about protecting his wife, which is kind of an extension of him in a way. And I mean, that's what you're supposed to do, but still. Whereas Django Zorro does a great job of progressing the character from having, the classical hero mentality to having the pulp and superhero mentality where he's willing to put his life on the line for just the good of others in general. And I really, really love that arc that they have him go through in that.
Yeah.
We did a whole Geeky Gentleman on that comic. It's great.
I remember that. I remember when that comic got announced, I was like, so it's a crossover and a sequel?
Yes.
Wow. I was like, no, that was my initial thought. I know what it is now. I was just like, wow. You don't see any of those.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. I remember Tarantino told a story where he mentioned that he was involved with this to Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx was like, "All right, man, when we calling up Antonio Banderas, let's make this happen." Jamie Foxx is ready to shoot the movie. It's kind of crazy how much Jamie Foxx loves this character. I've heard him talk about it. He even reprised the role for was it A Million Ways to Die in the West. So it's kind of interesting that.
Jamie Foxx has certainly got like an energy to him. Like he was all excited for playing Spawn, though that character's, which I don't. I'm fine with Jamie Foxx playing Spawn, but it's like, why have him? Because he's been confirmed he's not going to talk in the movie.
What?
So yeah, he's not going to talk in the movie, and he's only going to have he's going to be like the shark in Jaws. So I was like, so why have a known actor anyway?
Yeah, that's weird, but this isn't a Spawn video. Anyway, the thing with Jamie Foxx that really impresses me in regards to the Django character is he does such a good job of portraying this character who, in a lot of ways, is still very very immature throughout the movie, and I really like to see the way his character progresses. And I mean, part of that's the story, but I think Jamie Foxx does a really good job of showing a really natural character progression. And the way the scene I go to that I think really works is, what's the German guy's name? I'm blanking right now.
The actor or the character?
The character. Fritz or Franz or
forgetting the character.
Yeah. Anyway, the
I know
German,
the character, the actors play.
Yeah, anyway, the German guy's lets him buy his own clothes for the first time, and this is a huge thing for a slave. And Django buys the most fucking ridiculous, flamboyant-ass kind of clothes he possibly could. And he's kind of digging it. He's really excited about it at first. And then he's on the plantation where they first encounter the three brothers. He's on the plantation, and one of the other girls that's a slave there, she looks at him and she goes, "Your master makes you dress like that?" And he's like, "Nah, I dress myself like this." You would dress like anything, you dress like that? And there's just such this immature thing of you remember dressing like an idiot when you were 13 or 14, right? And he just never had the chance to mature out of that kind of mentality, and so just in an instant you kind of just see that sense of becoming self-aware, and it's so well told in the script, but it's so perfectly communicated just in everything that Jamie Foxx does in the performance right there. It's just got this perfect look on his face. I love it to death.
Also about this movie is that you said it was like a Western, but honestly it feels like it feels like a fairy tale. Excuse me, it's been a long day. It feels like you said it's supposed to be like a fairy tale, but honestly it feels like an old West version of a blaxploitation movie, because those clothes feel like an old West version of something you'd see the Dolomite or Disco Godfather would wear.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of it too. The black Western, I think that's there because Tarantino grew up watching a bunch of those B movies and stuff, and I'm sure the blaxploitations were some of them. But I think like when you really break down the movie, not to talk too much about the movie itself and get more into the character, but when you break down the movie, Django's like this lowly peasant style character. He meets a knight who trains him a la Obi-Wan and Luke, and then he kind of grows into, a proper man, and like gets a real sense of right and wrong, and goes and fights and saves his woman from the evil castle. It's very much like a fairy tale when you break it down.
Yeah, I get I know that's what it is, what it is at its core, but for me, like a lot, like I just feels like a Western blaxploitation. Like that's what my impression was the first time. But yeah, I can see the fairy tale.
Yeah. I also like how damn clever Django is as a character. That's, again, there's things done in the movie and also in the comic that are just predicated on what's the word I want? Predicated on suppositions, on preconceived notions about black people, particularly in film. I really like the scene where he tricks the mining company workers into letting him out and giving him his guns. It's like a really violent version of a Bugs Bunny bit. And I kind of dig it. You don't typically get to see that. You often see black people portrayed in film, particularly in like westerns and stuff, if you even see them, as really dumb or ignorant or whatever. And that's just, he's so damn smart in that movie. By the time you get to the end of it, it's really, really cool. I don't know. Why don't you go somewhere with this then?
I would say for this movie is that what I like about Django as a character is that, like you said, he is incredibly intelligent, but he also has like this just kind of swagger to him, where even like a lot of Caucasian characters are like, impressive. Even DiCaprio's character.
Yeah, like he is so obsessed and just intrigued by him, isn't he? That's a lot of fun. The way Django's like, because I mentioned the look thing earlier, where he at first he starts dressing himself and it's just outlandishly ridiculous, and then once he like starts to think about not only how he wants to be seen but how he wants others to see him, then it gets to be a very particular sense of style. I'm sorry, you're gonna say?
Yeah. No, I wasn't gonna say anything.
Okay. That just, that like really works. He starts to get a very, very cool look to him, especially with the shades. Oh, those start to look really cool. And yeah, you're right. He's got that swagger too, because at the toward the end of the movie, once he's blown up the house and he starts like making the horse dance. It's super fun.
Yeah, my favorite line in the whole movie, I know it's predictable, but my favorite line in the whole damn movie is, "I like the way you die, white boy."
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's cool. Man, I'm not sure what my favorite line in the whole movie is. There's a lot of good ones, though. I don't know. Maybe some shit Sam Jackson said, because he's just so fucking evil. Well, yeah, okay, here's an interesting side thing to go on, because the slavery aspect's obviously a very big part of Django's character. How to put this? How do you feel about the decision to make the villain in his, movie was not really a white guy so much as it was another slave?
That really took me aback, is that it throws you for a loop, and it's an interesting contrast, because here, on one end you've got Django, who had to literally fight his way to get where he is, and Sam Jackson's character, who was given everything and he's totally fine with the status quo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam Jackson spent so much time, licking boots and stuff, that he doesn't want that to change.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like. Oh, sorry. Were you gonna say something?
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that he is so fun. He finds Django a threat because he introduces this kind of shake up to, you know, you're gonna, like, in a weird way, he's like, you're gonna ruin it for the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought.
Well, at least that's how I saw it.
No, I agree. It's Django in his movie kind of represents the idea of, again, the heroic black man, which is not a thing that Hollywood often likes to let you see. And so to see like this, strong role model, this powerful version of a black character in this setting, it is such a shake-up and a game-changing dynamic. And that just makes it really, really cool. So Sam Jackson's character, not Sam Jackson the actor, obviously feels threatened by that, and it was really cool the way that plays on screen. Now, did you read Django Zorro or no?
I have not. I can't find that comic anywhere.
Ah, it's too bad. It's really good. You gotta like scour the earth for that one, because the scene that I really like in that is because Diego really kind of comes in and fucks with his head and plays the same role as, God, I'm still blanking on this guy's name, the German character. Plays a very similar role to him in, guiding Django and moving him forward. Django. Play that game for 5 minutes. In guiding him forward and helping him evolve further as a person and truly become more of a hero. I really, really liked the way that plays and how Django becomes... Again, he goes from being a strong black character to being a super heroic black character, which is even, more rare. So it's really, really interesting because Django's got this whole thing in the beginning of the comic where he's just kind of looking out mainly for himself. His wife is helping with the Underground Railroad, but he's out west, avoiding some heat because of everything that went down with Candyland, and so he's just collecting bounties out west. And then like Diego shows up and kind of shakes up his whole world. They get involved with this whole thing of like a guy who's trying to con the United States government out of Arizona, just the entire state. And like there's this whole railroad building exercise with a bunch of Indian wage slaves, and Django has this great moment, and he's got this internal monologue where he says, "There's all kinds of niggas in the world. You don't have to be black to be one. There's even white niggas out there licking their master's boots." And as he's doing that, he's getting ready to crash a fucking train into this super fucked mining operation where they're basically treating the natives like wage slaves. And just as he's about to crash the train, he jumps out of it and goes, "God damn it, Diego, what'd you do to me?" It's just this, it's the coolest thing, and it just really endeared him to me on a level as a character. Like more so than I think the movie did. And it makes me really annoyed that there's not going to be more Django stuff. Like Tarantino said, yeah, he's probably not going to make another movie with him, and he doesn't feel comfortable releasing the property to anyone else.
Oh, were you done?
Yeah.
You know what would have been interesting instead of Zorro, of who would have been a cool character to cross him over with?
Who?
What's his name? The
Lone Ranger?
Lone Ranger, thank you.
No. I think Zorro fits the mold a lot better than the Lone Ranger did. Though, I mean, I'd be okay with seeing that happen too, but if I could only have one, yeah, I definitely would have wanted Zorro. And I don't say that just as a Zorro fan.
Well, for why I'd say the Lone Ranger is because he's very much like the law, even though he works outside of it, and I think he would have that kind of same effect Zorro had, but on a bigger scale. Like it would be very much like a Superman Batman kind of thing, but Old West style.
I don't know about all that. I really don't. I guess I haven't read enough Lone Ranger to really have much of an argument. I just don't think that would have worked as well. But I don't know. I could see an argument for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a head scratcher. What else? I don't know. You take us somewhere.
Let's see. Where else could we go from here? What did you think of his relationship with the bounty hunter played by Christoph Waltz? What did you think of their relationship as mentor and student?
I mean, again, I think it is a really cool way to like kind of teach and help him grow as a person, because he's spent his whole life being told he isn't really a person, being treated like he isn't. It's really hard to watch those flashback scenes where he's like begging for his wife not to be whipped and stuff, and it's just everything about his humanity had been stripped away at that point. And so to see Waltz's character kind of build him back up and restore that and give him, I don't know if give him is the right word. What's the way I want to phrase this? Build him up and show him that he can be confident, that he can be cool, that he can have swagger, is a really, really interesting relationship. And I feel it's a really cool friendship dynamic that we get on screen.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like what I also like is that it feels natural between them. Like it's not so much like, hey, we're both kind of means to an end, but we'll eventually become friends. It's more like, no, we're gonna be friends real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you can tell Waltz he's got a little bit of selfishness, but at a certain point he's got just such a basic like respect of humanity that he can't take certain kinds of shit. And that all kind of comes to a head with DiCaprio's character, Candy. But, man, just the way that Waltz kind of, like, very quickly just becomes closer and closer and cooler with Django is really, really interesting. Yeah, I do really like that dynamic. How about you?
What did you say?
I'm just wondering if you have more thoughts on the dynamic.
I kind of dug it of just how, like, again, like you said, it is a little selfish, but still, on the other hand, like, you can see that he's like, yeah, this is kind of fucked, so I'm gonna help out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a cool relationship that builds over time in a really interesting way, I feel. What else? So I was disappointed by this because we don't get a ton of Broomhilda in the movie. And I will admit I was disappointed that we didn't get her in Django Zorro. They just kind of mention her once and then he's kind of off on his own. So I wish we'd get more with her, and again, I just don't think we ever will, since again, Tarantino's not gonna make another movie, and he doesn't feel comfortable spinning off the title, which I feel is a big mistake.
As a comic? You don't think we'll ever get it as a comic?
Unless he writes it himself, probably not. Unless he's got a hand in writing it himself, probably not. Because initially, when the movie came out and stuff, he was talking about, having someone do like a series of dime novels kind of things with Django stories, and he was really, really tempted and wanted to get into it, but he didn't feel comfortable releasing the character to that, because he'd get annoyed if the mythos got changed too much or something. Which is disappointing because I think it could be done really, really well and it could be really fun.
Yeah, totally.
Um,
Honestly, I think you could have done like a whole like little mini series here and there with Django, and again, like you could have done more with Brunhilde, a shit ton more. Like you could have explored that character a bit more rather than because it feels all like when you see her and you get to see, yeah, that's the love. I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel it. Like I don't feel that connection between the two. It's more like a Princess Peach kind of situation I'm feeling here.
See, I disagree there. I feel like their relationship is well established enough within what we see. Again, the fact that we see him beg and plead just to try to spare her pain. The what is it? The way that like when he enters the room and she just like faints is really cute. I really like that one. What else? Here's something interesting to talk about. And this probably should have been where I started earlier or mentioned it earlier. I really like that Django's a black cowboy. We don't like. Here's a really interesting thing that we don't discuss. So I don't know. We'll play this game real quick. Deadpoolzilla, imagine you are a slave in captivity in the South, and you decide to run away. What direction do you go?
Go west.
Exactly. You're supposed to go west, not north. North, you could be hunted still. You could be recaptured and sold back into slavery until you got out of the country to Canada. For most states, let you be recaptured and resold. West, however, was the West. It was lawless for the most part. So if you could fend for yourself out there, you could live out there. And so history is, and it's a lot to do with racist ass old movies, has paved over the idea of the black, Western cowboy kind of image. Fun fact, real quick, John Wayne. A lot of the characters he played are actually based off of black cowboy stories.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
It's actually kind of funny. Did you ever see the remake of Magnificent Seven?
No, I did not.
Well, it's kind of funny.
Make a Seven Samurai joke, but no.
It's kind of funny because most of the characters are racially diverse, and people were like bitching, like, "Oh, why aren't they all white like in the original movie?" And the director, Anton Fuqua, said, because this is how the West was.
Yep, it's been whitewashed in film. It's really interesting. So, yeah, I really do like that, Django kind of, even though it's a Southern more than a Western, Django does, begin to fill that role of the Western black hero, which, again, it was more of a normal thing than a lot of Hollywood lets you think, which is cool.
Yeah, like, there were white people out there, but there was actually, like, people seem to forget there was more black and even Asian minorities than there were.
Yeah, you had a lot of black people, runaway escaped and freed slaves, and just, prospectors, free men themselves. You had a lot of Asian migrants who were working on the railroads, and then you had, of course, not only Native Americans, but Hispanic and Spaniards running around. Mexicans and Spaniards running around out there.
The West was a more culturally, racially diverse than, a lot of people remember.
Oh, yeah, much more. And so Django, fits perfectly into that. It's weird that it's a novelty when it should just be, yeah, of course it's a cowboy movie with a black guy as the hero. Duh.
Yeah, why don't we get more black westerns? That's what always threw me for a loop.
Oh, probably because the western had kind of died down by the time Hollywood felt comfortable casting a black guy.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest.
Well, I mean, why don't we
get Saddles excluded?
Well, what I mean is, why don't we get more of those now in western? Whenever we get a western movie, why don't we do more black led a black led cast, or at least a lead actor in that role?
Yeah, it's complicated. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that old Hollywood internalized the idea of the white hero, the white conquering, manifest destiny West, and that, is obviously a problem within itself. But then you have the fact that when we make a Western now, it's more in tribute to the great filmmaking techniques that were invented in that problematic ass era. And so they don't want to necessarily distract from what they love by pointing out the flaws of what was definitely fucking wrong with it. Something along those lines, I imagine. Which is disappointing, because, yeah, more black Westerns, please. Make the Westerns relevant.
Yeah. It's funny, going back to the Magnificent Seven remake, the only people who survived that whole movie are the non-white characters.
Nice.
I was like, happy.
Yeah. So yeah, back to Django. Trying to think if there's anything else we might have to say on Django. Fastest gun in the South. It's a cool little moniker he gets. Anything you got anything else?
Other than, if you haven't seen it already, why the fuck are you sitting here? Go watch that movie.
It's a good ass movie, yeah. Okay. What character will we be talking about next week?
Well, the next character we'll be talking about is Captain Kirk.
Oh, fun. Alright. That'll work. Until next time, everyone, I'm the Philosopher.
And I am the Don Juan of Comic-Con.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.